listening to the Fantasy Wildcard Podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Fantasy Wildcard Dynasty Show. Yeah, don't tune out. This is not 2022, everybody. This is 2024, and we've got the best three ever of the wildcard. You can follow me on X at FFDynastyGrill. Almost forgot that then. And you can follow Kev, the absolute legend, at the Dynasty Mind. Kev, how you doing tonight, mate? Because you look a little bit flustered.
It's very warm, isn't it? For January, it's very warm. I think feels a little bit like Friday the 13th to me tonight. I think Grim Reaper's out for me. I'm sweating up. It's going to be a great show, no doubt. But yeah, I think I'm going to be squirming a little bit tonight. How about you, Ali?
I am absolutely looking forward to tonight's show, mate. I've been looking forward to this for weeks and weeks because we've got an absolute return and legend that's hopefully going to give you a little bit of grief. In fact, I know he's going to give you some grief, Kev. So looking forward to it. Mags, unfortunately, is not on the show tonight. There was mention of Karen Williams being on the show, so he's decided to not show up, and hopefully he'll be back fit and healthy next week. But yeah, on tonight's show, as you'll notice if you're watching on YouTube, we welcome back an absolute legend. It is, you probably know him now as the Fantasy Weatherman. He is actually the official winner now of the Fantasy Wildcard selection for 2023, and he's wearing an awesome T-shirt tonight. And he's a Fantasy Wildcard absolute Hall of Famer, all-round good guy. So we give the warmest wildcard return to Matt Thornton, the absolute studs. You can follow him on X at MattFFDynasty. It should be the Dynasty Weatherman or the FF Weatherman, but we'll let him off. Matt, how you doing, mate?
I'm doing so good, honestly. I've been looking forward to coming on this show for, well, all season pretty much, I think. Kev obviously had a few words to say about my wildcard selection. I thought I'd represent, spent £30 to get this delivered all the way from the USA. It's absolutely terrible condition. It looks shocking, but it does the job just to rub it. A little surprise for Kev to start the show. But yeah, it's brilliant to be back. Feels like I haven't been gone, but at the same time feels really weird that I'm the guest now, getting that introduction. I mean, yeah, that was really nice. So yeah, looking forward to it. It's going to be a lot of fun. Just seeing Kev squirm. That's what I've been waiting for.
Kev, any words for Matt as he's back wearing the terrible Puka Nacua t-shirt?
I think, I guess the first thing is, like, if I ever leave, I wonder what you'll say about me. But yeah, no, really looking forward to the show. Nice surprise with what Matt's wearing. He pulls it off really well because he's a handsome chap. Just putting him up for later. But yeah, it's going to be a great show, and I think I'll be swimming a little bit, but it's going to be a bit of fun as well.
Yeah, cannot wait. So we've mentioned a couple of guys that might be on the show tonight, and the reason for that is because we're going to be announcing the winners of our 2023 Dynasty Awards as chosen by our amazing guest, Matthew. So we'll start with Rookie of the Year. Now, I'm sure there could have been a couple of considerations for this pick. We've gone for the best form rookie in Dynasty this year. So in my mind, there can only be one winner. I'm glad you picked this guy. Who have you selected in the end, Matt?
Well, don't say that, Ali, because obviously I wanted to go for Puka Nacua, but I thought I can't pick Puka for every single category. Kev will not have it, not let me back on the show. So I'm going to start things off. CJ Stroud I've actually gone for as my Rookie of the Year. Obviously came in at quarterbacks, looked amazing in his rookie season, over 4,000 passing yards, 23 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. Without doubt, the best performing rookie in terms of fantasy points. Just looking at how many fantasy points per game, he got 18.5. So if I'm going by the letter of the law, as Kev likes me to do, best performing rookie, I guess he fits perfectly into that. Finished QB8 in fantasy points per game. I think he's been incredible for me. I know Ali and me and you were quite high on him. Kev, I think you as well quite like CJ Stroud as well. Obviously, you were the Anthony Richardson guy, but He's looked amazing. Looked far better than what I expected, to be honest. I feel like when we were looking at these quarterbacks, Stroud was kind of that middle quarterback, weren't he, in terms of the ceiling play was obviously Richardson. I think Young was probably the one that we thought was a safer option, and Stroud was kind of in the middle of that. But I think if we're looking ahead into next year, I think he's going to be a top 5 pick in startups next year. I know he's currently going as high as QB3, I think, at minute on Keep Trade Cut. So definitely going to be a top 5 pick. I've not quite got him that high as my quarterback 5, but as I say, looked amazing. I think the changes that Houston are making over there, I don't think any of us expected to do as well they've done this year. I think a lot of that has come down to CJ Stroud. Obviously, D'Amico Ryans as well coming in as head coach, bringing in CJ Stroud. Just been a perfect storm, to be honest. I think I even mentioned as well during the draft when they actually used that first round pick as well after they drafted CJ Stroud, they used the first as well to get, was it Will Anderson? I think they got with that pick, was it? And the fact that they used their own pick, I mentioned that was like a real show of backing the quarterback. They really thought they were going to make strides this year. So it's been great to see how well CJ Stroud's done. And as I say, I think he's a lot for a top 5 pick. He's my quarterback 5, and I think the future's looking pretty bright for him, to be honest.
Yeah, I think it's a great pick to begin. I kind of thought you might have gone Puka, but I know why you didn't. It's because you wanted to get me sweating early, hold it back a little bit. And but I think what you said there on the first pick is spot on, and your analysis of Stroud's exactly my thoughts, in the sense that far outperformed what I expected in that situation. He's made players around him more valuable in Dynasty. Himself in Dynasty is now a top 3 QB, so that's pretty wild. I'm there with you. He's not in my top 4, but from 5 to 7, that's the range where it will be ended up in the off season. I think as well, QB8 fantasy points per game. It's really interesting. There's a couple of guys above him that didn't play more than 8 games. I think there was Cousins and Big Joe Flacco as well. So
yeah,
if we take those out, QB6 is really promising for a passing QB. We know that without the rush upside, the floor, the ceiling's potentially not going to be there, and I'm not ready to crown him the next Patrick Mahomes, but QB6 fantasy points per game as a rookie in that situation that's potentially going to get better with more weapons and the growth in that team. I think he's such a safe guy that you can be really pleased with, and deserving winner of this award.
Yeah, I think he's hit his ultimate ceiling for what could have been expected going into the year. Never really foresaw this. He was my pre-draft quarterback 1, but yeah, I mean, I definitely had Richardson over him after the draft. But yeah, amazing season. Quarterback 3 is obviously Keep Trade Cut likes the spice, doesn't it? The overreaction. Yeah, I think I'm absolutely with you at quarterback 5, just behind the top 4 guys, with Lamar Jackson at 4. I put out today how I'd pick a Superflex round 1 sort of start up right now, and I've got him and Joe Burrow in the same tier. But thinking about it, I'd have CJ Stroud ahead of him if I was picking today, just with the thought T. Higgins might be leaving. And Stroud has got them amazing weapons, only going to get better from here on out. They've also got over 70 million in cap space for next year. They're like number 2 or 3 in the NFL. You got to think they could be adding an even better, more experienced receiver as well, or tight end. So there's that as well. So the ceiling is well and truly there. He could easily jump into the top, that elite bracket come next season. So it's a smash pick for me. Well done, Matt. I'm not going for Puka, but I'm sure he's going to get in the show somewhere.
Oh, absolutely.
So is it going to be this category? We're going to go for breakout of the year. So this is the player who finally reached their dynasty potential in 2023. And yeah, absolutely love this pick. A guy that I'm really, really high on right now.
Yeah, you just mentioned a little bit earlier about CJ Stroud. Now we were all kind of low on him, exceeded what we expected to come from him. And I think this guy fits perfectly as a breakout player because we had to wait 3 whole years just to see him basically on the field. It's got to be Jordan Love for me with this one, as I say. Sat behind Aaron Rodgers for 3 seasons pretty much. I think before the season started, his ADP was around that QB18, QB19 range. So I think a lot of people, myself included, was kind of skeptical on Love. Obviously, they gave him the opportunity when they traded Aaron Rodgers away I wasn't too convinced that Jordan Love was going to be the answer, to be honest. We all saw those clips when Aaron Rodgers was there and they were training and they couldn't even hit like the throwing net and get it into the net. So there was a lot of concerns, I think, with Jordan Love when it was coming into this year. But again, he's absolutely smashed this year, to be honest. Finished quarterback 5, QB 6 in fantasy points per game. Just, again, somebody that's completely exceeded what we expected. Over 4,000 passing yards, 32 touchdowns, just 11 interceptions. Again, my big concern was the accuracy and was he going to be able to cut it in the NFL? And when given the full-time role, and he's definitely proved me wrong. And as we mentioned with CJ Stroud, doesn't have that rushing floor. Jordan Love, while he's not a prolific runner, he has a little bit more than CJ Stroud, nearly 250 rushing yards and 4 touchdowns. And he had 4 or 5 games, I think, with around 30 yards. So while it's nothing amazing, it's just that little bit extra few points that you're going to get out of him in terms of rushing. So that was obviously brilliant. And I think it was the fact as well that it's such a young team around him. That was a reason, again, why I didn't think Jordan Love was going to be able to live up to the expectations, because we had guys like rookie Jaden Reed, Devontae Wicks, Romeo Doubs, obviously in his second year, Christian Watson, even though he was out for a lot of the year, and then even the tight ends as well, Kraft and Musgrave, both rookies. So super young roster around him. The only real veteran guy was Aaron Jones, and even he missed some time throughout the year as well. So I was super shocked that he was able to produce what he did with such a young, inexperienced team around him as well. So, as I say, definitely my breakout player, exceeded my expectations by a long shot. I don't think I'm quite up to consensus in terms of where I've got him. I think I've got him around QB 12, but he's definitely moved up my rankings, and there's definitely room for him to move up further as well if Green Bay do bring in maybe a more experienced wide receiver, somebody that can dominate on the outside. So, yeah, definitely a breakout player for me, and I'm excited to see what happens as we move forward.
Yeah, it's a great pick, I think. First of all, obviously, Matt, you're getting married this year to somebody called Love. Fair comment, is correct. And I think it's just keeping on that feel, like if you're getting married to Jordan Love in Dynasty, you tie yourself up for a really bright future. As you are, Matt, as well, really bright future.
Look at him pandering. He knows what's coming. He's pandering.
Yeah, put it up for later. But yeah, I think what he's done is it fits the exact mold for breakout player, breakout of the year, with sitting behind Rodgers for so long and shocking everyone. Nobody could have predicted he'd have done this well. QB 6 fantasy points per game, QB 5 if you take out Super Joe Flacco. And yeah, the situation's going to get better around him as that team grows. He's going to be in line to get a massive deal. So I think part of the issue with John Love for this season was the short deal and how would he perform? Would he keep a job? Because I think the range was going in the late teens, early 20s. It's all about contract security. If you can get a 3-year deal, 2-year deal, that's great, because a lot of guys in that range that are year to year, maybe people like your Sam Howells that have faded away, was going in at a similar range to him. So he's done great. We did call it out actually on one of our startup shows in the off season. He was going at the 911, the 911, and said like 911 is a steal. Call the cops, and it's turned out to be that way. So yeah, he's absolutely smashed it. I'm good I've not got more shares. I did sell some in season because I thought I could have gone a couple of ways. But yeah, I think even the playoff run he's had, the 2 games, it's going to bump up everyone's price a little bit on the Packers, but well deserved.
Yeah, definitely well deserving of this award. Yeah, again, I've got 1 share of him. I traded 1 away for Kyler straight up in season. Definitely wish I had more of Jordan Love. We did talk him up, but I wasn't manly enough to put my money where my mouth is and really buy into Love in the off season and during the season. And I think we're going to miss out now because of trade Carter. If they've got him, if people have got him around quarterback 9, that's really spicy. Although I think it's fair because I absolutely love the weapons that are around him. Jaden Reed is one of my favourite players in Dynasty. Dontavian Wicks, Romeo Doubs, got a lot of Romeo Doubs. But you kind of think, is it them elevating Jordan Love? But no, it's probably him elevating those wide receivers. And you look at Tucker Kraft and what he was able to do at the end of the season. He looks like a good tight end. So, yeah, I think all the signs point to Jordan Love being a really good real-life NFL quarterback that's going to be the next, don't want to say Aaron Rodgers, but the Green Bay Packers. That, they've just stepped from one elite quarterback into another one by the looks of it. And, yeah, he's going to be there for a long time. He's certainly on that list now of about 13, 14 quarterbacks that are safe for the next 2 or 3 years where you really want shares of this guy. But you've certainly missed the boat if you haven't got many Jordan Love shares right now, because that's tough. But yeah, an interesting one where you've got him in the same bracket as, or a lot of people will, as Trevor Lawrence. Now, I just want to quickly ask you boys, which one would you rather have in Dynasty right now? Would it be, I'll ask you first, Matt, would it be Jordan Love or would it be Trevor Lawrence?
It's tough. It is really tough. I still think I'll lean Trevor Lawrence, to be honest. I believe in that talent. I think obviously this year has been a real disappointing year for Trevor Lawrence, but I feel like the Jags can still do plenty of things in terms of the weapons that he's got. Obviously, Calvin Ridley came in and he didn't really show up, did he, for a while, and then kind of had those flashes toward the end of the year. And I just feel like it's just one of those years, I think, for the Jags. And I've still got confidence that Trevor Lawrence, we saw it the year before, that he is going to be fantastic when things are going right for him and he's got the weapons around him and the team around him. So, yeah, I still think I take Trevor Lawrence, but it is pretty close, to be honest. Maybe it's just my because I was so low on Love before the year that I can't quite bring myself to come round on that, considering how far apart I had him at the start of the year. But yeah, I think I do just still slightly lean Trevor Lawrence in terms of long-term dynasty value.
Come on, I'm not going to butter him up all night. I'm going to take Jordan Love. I think Trevor Lawrence very overrated in my eyes in terms of what he's done based on the hype he had coming out. I think QB 18 fantasy points per game this season just gone with those weapons. Obviously, Christian Kirk, his main man, was missing. Just getting Matt back on side of that comment there. But yeah, I think just with Love to be QB5. I don't think Trevor Lawrence has got close to that yet. So yeah, give me the upside of someone that's potentially still a little bit of a mystery box. He's done it for one season. Can he do it 2 seasons? But he's still done it one more season than that beautiful Goldilocks character.
I thought that was going to be interesting because I thought we were going to hear both sides of that argument, and we absolutely did. So yeah, love that.
Smart guy, Ali.
We'll move on to a guy that we can all agree on is an absolute smash in Dynasty. So the comeback player of the year, this guy, considering he come back from a serious injury, absolutely smashed it this year on such a poor offense. So this is the player who came back from adversity to become an asset in Dynasty this season. And he's my number one at his position. So might give a clue to who it is. Matt, who is it?
Yeah, he's my number one as well, and it had to be Breece Hall for me in terms of comeback player of the year. As we know, came in as a rookie, looked amazing for those, I think it was first 8 games, and then obviously went down with the ACL tear during that rookie season. Absolute brutal loss for the Jets last year, and then coming into this year as well, obviously there was all the uncertainty. Was he going to be ready for the start of the year? They brought in Dalvin Cook. That kind of put more hints towards the fact that he wasn't going to be ready, and he did actually take a little bit of time to get going in terms of his snap share. I think it was below 50% for the first couple of weeks, and then they slowly built it up. But when you look at the overall end of year stats, he's been absolutely incredible. The fact that he has just come back from an ACL tear, usually it takes players a full season to start getting back up to speed. It took Breece Hall all of about 3 weeks, I think, to get back up to speed. Looking at the rushing stats, just short of 1,000 yards rushing and 4 touchdowns. Then also the receiving work that he had as well, 76 receptions, nearly 600 yards and 4 touchdowns. So what's that, nearly 300 touches in a year when he's just come back from an ACL tear. That is just incredible. Shows what a great return he's made in such a short space of time. And then, as you mentioned, you consider the fact that he was playing on the Jets that have got, I think it's a 27th ranked run defense, looking at PFF in their rankings. So the O-line was absolutely shocking this year. Obviously, the quarterback situation, we don't need to get into that too much, but absolutely shocking as soon as Rodgers went down week 1. I suppose that kind of did help in terms of the receiving work because of those dump-offs with the quarterbacks. Was it Travis Simeon and Zach Wilson in at quarterback? It was a real good safety valve for those quarterbacks, so it did bump up his receiving stats a little bit. But even with that, Breece Hall looked fantastic when given the opportunity. Finished the year as the RB2, RB6 in fantasy points per game. As you mentioned, Ali, Dynasty running back 1 for me without a doubt. I think he looked incredible. I think moving forward, if they do make those improvements to the O-line, Rodgers coming back as well, I think that's going to keep things really honest for opposing teams. This season or this season just gone, teams could really just focus on Breece Hall because he was basically the offense. Obviously, Garrett Wilson, the quarterback, couldn't get it to Garrett Wilson, so a lot of focus would have been on Breece Hall. So I think next year with Rodgers back, maybe keeping defense a little bit more honest, and as I say, if they make some improvements to that O-line, yeah, I think it's scary what kind of ceiling we could look at for Breece Hall in fantasy moving forward. And as I say, easily my running back one in Dynasty, and I'm super excited for next year and for the next few years as well with Breece Hall.
Yeah, you boys are smart guys. Like, he's my Dynasty running back one as well. First of all, like, this is obviously a Breece Hall award, so we're not going to throw too much shade, but how can you have Bijan above him? Like, seriously? It just blows my mind. I think Bijan's still a projection. We don't know who's going to be the head coach or how it's going to look. We know what the Jets are going to be. They're going to be the same head coach offense. They're going to get Aaron Rodgers, which he's not a rushing QB. Like Garrett Wilson's already there. Who are they going to add realistically at wide receiver that's going to take tons away, or at tight end? I can't see it. He's just done so well. I think he was first in receptions, but second in terms of pace, just behind Alvin Kamara. That's so solid. The goal line work's going to improve as the offense gets better. So he's Dynasty running back one. I think there is that tier of maybe 2 or 3 at the top, but if you take a step back, would you take any of the others in that tier above Breece Hall? So that then becomes the argument, is he a standalone guy? Because, yeah, we do tiers, but I think the same argument can be made for Josh Allen. We do tiers at the top. Yeah. If you wouldn't take any of the others above him, why is it a tier of more than one? So you could make the argument that he's in a tier of his own, and then there's a bit of a scrap after that. But, comeback player of the year. I think if we're talking real life, it's probably going to be Flacco, but this is a Dynasty show. I think Baker Mayfield got a mention as well on X at the weekend for comeback player of the year, which I guess it's a bronze medal we'll give him for that. But Breece Hall has absolutely smashed it. He's come back. He's put to bed the injury, and it's wheels up for anyone that stuck by him, which I think most people were based on the talent.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, historically, people don't produce just a year after that major injury, but what he done it's just phenomenal. The fact that he managed to finishes the RB2, it's pretty insane considering the Jets were so poor on offense. But yeah, just looking at the last few weeks where he was really given that full workload, 16 targets in week 16, along with 20 rushes in the same game, and then week 18, just the 37 rushes for 178 yards. It's just insane what he was able to do on this offense, constantly being hit from behind the line, producing yards on his own. I mean, realistically, there's only really Christian McCaffrey who can come close to him in Dynasty if we're talking about what they can produce. And we know Christian McCaffrey's 28 years old. Are you going to select him in a startup ahead of Breece Hall? There's just too much, too big a gap between the two in terms of age. So
Max Wood.
For me. Yep. 100%.
Hey, Max.
But Breece Hall has to be comeback player of the year, especially when we talks about a fantasy. Real life is definitely Baker, obviously, but I definitely can't argue. Bijan Robinson, we'll definitely wait to see on him. Jahmyr Gibbs, he's going to have Montgomery again with him next year. Again, it's almost a bit of a projection. We saw what he can do on limited touches, especially this week against my team on something like 9 touches. It was over 100 yards, just insane. But can he handle the full workload? We're yet to see. So, 100% worthy of the winner. And we'll move on to Kev's favourite category. This is the veteran of the year. This is the best performing older guy in Dynasty this year, and this is the guy that was just overtaken by Breece Hall in terms of fantasy production towards the latter end of the season. But what a season for this guy, Matt.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, this was a little difficult for me because I was kind of wondering what Kev were trying to get at when going for a veteran. Did he want me to go for like an obvious one? I could have gone someone like Tyreek Hill. I guess he's getting up there, nearly 30. Could have gone for him, who's absolutely smashed it. But I think in terms of an older guy who stood out, it's got to be Raheem Mostert for me this year. The fact that he's 31 years old and a running back still in the NFL is an achievement in itself because we all discard running backs when they get to 27, 28. So the fact that he's 31 and still in the NFL is an achievement in itself. You could have got him for next to nothing at the start of the year. Obviously, with Achane coming in, I think a lot of people thought there was going to be a natural movement over to him being the starter. Raheem Mostert, maybe he might have started the year and then he would have slowly faded out towards the end of the year. So you could have picked him up super cheap at the start of the year, even after the first couple of weeks, because of his age and the fact he's a running back. If somebody were looking to cash in on him, you could have probably bought him right at the start of the year. But then looking at what he did throughout the year, over 200 touches, over 1,000 rushing yards, led the league in rushing touchdowns with 18 touchdowns, and a little bit of receiving work as well, 25 receptions, 175 yards and 3 touchdowns. 31 years old, lads. A running back that's 31 years old, that producing those kind of figures for us in Dynasty. Running back 5, running back 4 in fantasy points per game. He's been incredible, to be honest. We've always spoke about this Miami backfield, how it could be fantasy gold. Obviously, those links to that Shanahan system with Mike McDaniel as a head coach over in Miami. And we kind of got a little glimpse of it. I think if you look back to 2022, we got a little glimpse that this could have been an incredible backfield. Most that finishes the RB25 last year, which, okay, it's nothing to shout home about. But you look at the yards per carry. He actually had a better rate last year, 4.92, than it did this year at 4.84. So there was glimpses there. He just wasn't getting the touchdowns, to be honest. He only had 3 last year, and this year he's obviously gone crazy in terms of the touchdowns. So, as I say, this backfield is incredible. I think moving forward, I mean, I know Kev, there's only one guy in Miami on that backfield that Kev wants to have, and I think as Dynasty players, there's only one guy that we want in that backfield. But Raheem Mostert, is he going to come back this year? I think he's a free agent at the end of this year. Do they bring him back for more years, maybe back up, or maybe to still be the starter for next year and they bring Achan in? Who knows? But just incredible. The fact you could get him for next to nothing and he's finished, RB5? That's league winning material, I think, in terms of Dynasty.
Yeah, I wish I was 31 again.
Yeah, I feel terrible saying 31 old and we're all here sat older than 31. But yeah.
I mean, if we did this award at midway of the season, we might have got a little shout for Adam Thielen, I think. But but yeah, I think it's a great pick, Raheem Mostert, league winner, and yeah, it adds more fuel to what's going to happen in this offseason as well. The hero running back approach, the zero running back approach. There's tons of veterans out there like Mostert, you guys like your Henrys, your Mixons, your Kamaras that are all going to be lowering startup drafts, and that's going to add weight to like punting running back 2 spots or taking a few late guys just like Mostert that have balled out and absolutely smashed. He did fantastic. I mean, yeah, it reminds me a little bit of Jamal Williams last season, where it's just touchdown machine. You're probably not going to hear from him next season, but yeah, he deserves the award. He's done absolutely fantastic. I think with taking running backs in this range, it is a little bit of luck because you got to stay injury free, and he did actually miss week 17, didn't he? You've got to stay injury free, and you've got to end up in the right spot. So just take shots at running back. You might get lucky and get the right one that falls into a job or ends up maintaining the job. There's not tons of skill other than using the strategy and taking shots, but he deserves to win that award. Sorry, Raheem, for saying some bad stuff at the end. Well done.
Yeah, we can't say too much bad things about Raheem Mostert. I mean, what an absolute guy on this really explosive offense, just scoring touchdown after touchdown, especially early on in the season. Didn't really slow down towards the end either. So 4 of his last 7 games were actually finishing inside the top 10 at the position. So he was still producing her up until he picked up the injury. But yeah, what a guy. Interesting to see what happens going forward. I would have thought they bring him back and he sort of plays that 1B role with A-Chain. Who knows? He might still have a similar role to what he had this season. Who knows? There's such a wide range of outcomes. Definitely not going to be anywhere near the RB5. But as Kev mentioned, this is the guy. This is the sort of player you need to be adding at the back end of your drafts, picking up, that just need one thing to happen to fall onto a team like the Miami Dolphins, and they can absolutely take off in any season. So I'm happy to pick up so many guys like this and just drop them if they're useless, if they're not being used. There's plenty of them going on, but you just need that one just to really help push you over the edge and really help you win championships, which is what Raheem Mostert was there for. Definitely worthy of this award. Absolute perfection. So, talking of perfection,
look at his face.
Come on, Ali, you're dragging this out. Let's get to it. Come on.
This is the waiver pickup of the year. You're going to have no idea who this is going to go to. So the Dynasty waiver pickup of 2023, Matt. Who have you got?
It's got to be my boy, hasn't it? Puka Nacua. I think, as I mentioned at the start of the show, I could have picked him for a few categories, but this felt like a good one to pick for because I actually struggled, to be honest, in terms of who I could have as a waiver pickup. But Puka Nacua, he was on waivers in a lot of leagues. I think there's actually a league that we're in together in the Champions League that Paul runs that I actually picked him up off waivers just before the season started. So he has been on waivers for a lot of teams. If you're playing in Dynasty leagues that maybe only had 3 rounds of rookie picks, he probably went undrafted. Maybe even 4. There could have been a few leagues where he wasn't selected in your rookie draft. So felt like a great opportunity to talk about Puka Nacua as the waiver pickup. I mean, where do I start? What an incredible year. I mean, I'll hold my hands up. I did not expect anything like this. I had hopes that maybe he could be a wide receiver too, as like an absolute push. If he did drop perfectly into, I mentioned it a few times, fitting into that Robert Woods role in this Rams offense and being that number 2 behind Cooper Kupp when he returned. But started the year absolute on flames and carried it on even when Kupp came back. An historic year in terms of rookie receptions, receiving yards. It's been a joy to watch as somebody that supported him from the start during the process of the off season. But as I mentioned, those first 4 weeks when Kupp was out, he was lighting it up, and I mean lighting it up. He was the wide receiver for 23.9 fantasy points per game. And then we all started talking about, well, Kupp's coming back. Let's see what happens when Kupp's come back. Can he maintain it? And I even said he can't maintain it. There was no way that he could maintain that level of performance when Cooper Kupp came back. No matter what wide receiver came back, you couldn't keep up that level of performance. So I will hold my hands up and say he did dip a little bit. It went down to 15.7 fantasy points per game. So it is a big drop off, but that was still wide receiver 12. And I think that's still incredible numbers for a rookie coming in with Cooper Kupp alongside him. Obviously, Kupp didn't really look himself, did he? I think he had a few games where he was over 100 yards, but he also put out a lot of games where he was getting 20, 30 yards. So that probably did help as well in terms of Puka Nacua, getting a little bit more fantasy points. But long term, he's a stud. Anyone that's still doubting Puka Nacua, I mean, you need to get your head sorted out, to be honest. You need to go and get checked out because with Kupp back, he's the wide receiver one now in this offense for me in moving forward. Cooper Kupp is getting up there in age. I think he's going to be 31 at the start of next year. Still under contract, but I think they do have a way out of that contract after next year. So if we are starting to see the steady decline of Cooper Kupp, they can look to move off him, and that's just going to open things up again for Puka Nacua to be a stud. So yeah, I mean, I love to gloat, but I didn't expect this. I didn't expect anywhere near this. And anyone that says they did, it's just talking out their ass, to be honest, because it's been one of those freak years, but I think he's the real deal, to be honest, moving forward. I've got him in my top 5 in terms of wide receivers in Dynasty, and I don't think that's too crazy to have, to be honest.
Yeah, I think first of all, let's just say that Puka Nacua was your fantasy wildcard pick from 2023, which absolutely smashed everyone else out of the park. Had some really, really, really good fantasy wildcard selections last year, and Puka, like, so much better than everyone else. I think it's for, sorry, Kev, I was just going to jump in. I think it was funny. I think Mags at the time did say it was like a Hail Mary, and it literally was, because I was the last person to make a selection. You asked me just before the season started, do you want to make one? I thought, well, let me just pick my guy. I mean, there's nobody else. There's been so many people taken. Let me just pick my guy. And it was literally a Hail Mary. So yeah, did get super lucky, to be honest. He did what he did. Absolutely smashed it. I think by the time this video drops, there'll be another video that dropped where it takes us back in time a little bit to start the season, where I was announcing your pick, and I called Puka Nacua terrible, which obviously in hindsight I look an idiot, but it's not the first time.
Where did you think he'd finish, Kev? What was the positional ranking? Just to put it in perspective.
I think because
he finished wide receiver 5, so just to put it in perspective.
I think I said about wide receiver 60. So
sounds about right.
I think on that, it is time for me to eat a little bit of humble pie. I've got my fork with me this evening, as you can see. So time for some humble pie. I'm not going to throw any shade on Nacua. I think what he's done is fantastic. We can't have imagined any season like this from where he came. The fact that he was on waivers, he was at an ADP in the 50s in rookie drafts according to DLF. But yeah, everyone on Twitter, I'm not going to say you, Matt, because we know that you're a big fan and you've backed him up, but everyone on Twitter that drafted loads of him, that picked him up off waivers early. Everybody's got Puka Nacua on the roster, haven't they? So I think that's quite an interesting one, that everybody's hit on him and nobody's missed. I've not got any of him, which I think it's an opportunity missed. I wouldn't say it's an error because I've not lost anything, but there could have been something there where if I didn't just go against him because you said it, Matt, then I could have gained from that as well. So that's the thing I'm taking from it. If you're high on anyone, I'm not just going to fade him for the sake of just taking the other side and being a bit of a knob. But yeah, you're right. He's the 1A in this offense for me now. I think wide receiver 5 on keep trade cut above guys like AJ Brown, Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave. I think they deserve to be in the same tier. I'm not going to say I'm above on all of them, but you kind of got to think a little bit like Nacua's on and I said this in season actually about week 2, week 3. The range of outcomes you want him for him is an Amon-Ra St. Brown, because he's a guy that he's not got a high ADOT. He's being used a lot around the line of scrimmage, and it's all to do with yards after catch and using like elusiveness to really maximize his dynasty potential. So yeah, if he ends up being Amon-Ra St. Brown, you've smashed it. Amon-Ra's one place above him in a keep trade cut. If Nacua continues to perform again next season, that's got to be flipped in my eyes, just because he's had a full season where he's done it. Amon-Ra in his first rookie season just had that 6-7 game stretch at the end. So he deserves to be where he is. No complaints from me with the waiver wire pickup. I can't think of anyone else who would actually get close to that, really. But I can stop squirming now, I think. But I was 100% wrong on Puka Nacua.
I really did enjoy seeing you squirm a little bit there, Kev. That's been the absolute highlight of the year.
All throughout the year has been my alley, just watching Kev slowly having to come round to the idea. It's been brilliant.
I can't wait to see your ranking come this off-season, Kev, where you've officially got Puka Nacua as your wide
receiver 50.
But I just cannot get out of my head him and this guy off Ted Lasso. They are the same guy, I have to say. Have you seen them two in the same place? Because, yeah, it's incredible the likeness between the two. But yeah, what an absolute guy. I've got so much of him now. I haven't got loads of him. I've got a few shares of him. I'm happy, and 100% I was picking him up because of all the buzz you were giving him, Matt. So it was me taking him in where I could in front of you in the sort of 4th round of rookie drafts. Yeah, what a guy, and absolutely deserves to be in this tier. With AJ Brown, Garrett Wilson, definitely above Chris Olave, and yeah, I completely agree. If he smashes it again next year, cannot see any reason why. With Stafford coming back, head coach coming back, so much consistency there. The Rams were really a breath of fresh air this year, and I think they can produce again next year. Oh, I made a massive mistake last weekend in DFS. I picked Cooper Kupp ahead of Nacua, and I could have been on for quite a bit of money if I'd have gone for the actual stack with Nacua, and Cooper Kupp massively let me down. So, yeah, not happy about that one, but really happy about this pick, Matt. I mean, what a guy. And yeah, I think you've missed the boat on Puka Nacua firmly now, Kev. You're not going to get any shares, I'm afraid. Yeah, absolutely love that one. So we'll move on. Late round player of the year. So this is the player that's been taken late in Dynasty startups who absolutely smashed it. And this guy was incredible, was just so elite towards the end of the season. And he's on the same team. So Matt, who is it?
Yeah, and this is a guy that I thought I maybe could have picked as a waiver pick, but he's coming into his second year. I thought he was going to be on a lot of people's taxi squad, so kind of thought he kind of fitted this category a lot better. And it's Kyren Williams. I'm gutted that Mag's in here because I know how much he loves Kyren Williams, and I know he would have spoke a little bit about how much he loves Kyren Williams. So it's a shame Mag's in here, but yeah, again, this has got to be the late round pickup for me. I think In terms of his ADP, I think in terms of running back, he was going something like RB60, so super late. Might not even have drafted him in a lot of startups if you only had shallow leagues. But again, what he's been able to do, finishes the RB7, but you then look at fantasy points per game because he did miss a bit of time, only played the 12 games, but finishes the RB2. With 21.2 fantasy points. And the interesting stat is he was actually close to Christian McCaffrey in fantasy points per game, who had 24.4. Then the running back 3 of Alvin Kamara was 17.9. So, well, not a lot of difference, pretty much similar, but he is slightly closer to McCaffrey than what it was the RB3 in fantasy points per game of Alvin Kamara. So, absolutely incredible year. And it's the usage, to be honest. Who thought he would get this kind of usage? 228 carries, 1,144 yards and 12 rushing touchdowns, 32 receptions, 200 yards and 3 touchdowns. Just incredible numbers, to be honest. I think a lot of us probably didn't draft him because Cam Akers was there. We all thought that he was going to have that bounce back year, start the year well and be the running back for the Rams. But as soon as it was obvious that he was out of favour with Sean McVay and it was going to be Kyren Williams, he just fed him. He just absolutely fed him. And as I say, it's not very often now in the NFL that you get these running backs that are pure workhorses. But Kyren Williams was that when he was healthy. He was just getting all of the touches. So again, incredible value getting him so late in your startup drafts. Again, somebody that you could have traded for super cheap at the start of the year. If, as I say, with Cam Akers there especially, you could have got him cheap. And even when Akers went, I don't think his value shot up too much, and nobody expected the production we got out of him. So felt like an easy selection for this category, given what we got out of him. I've got him now as my RB8 in Dynasty. I think this is going to be a really interesting conversation where people have him, because I know that's below consensus, and I think all three of us are below maybe on consensus, knowing how high he's going in some people's rankings. So I'm not fully there yet on him, but I mean, it's hard to argue with that kind of usage. If he gets that next year, then he's going to be a stud again, I think.
Yeah, despite betting me on the last player, Matt, I think I'm just going to give a little hat tip to you on this one and say, when Kyren was coming out, you touted him up as someone to watch in your rookie threads, and obviously rookie season didn't go as planned, but
he absolutely bombed out of the combine as well. That kind of put me off a little bit.
Exactly. So
I'm not taking too much credit, because I did sour on him a little bit after that.
We'll give him a little bit of credit, because I'm going to mention Zach Evans in a sec. So,
I thought that was coming.
I thought that was coming.
No, I think first of all on Williams, agree again. Just late round player of the year, smashed it. If we just look heading into the season, it was Zach Evans that was getting a lot of buzz initially, and when it came to the end of pre-season, the beat writer was saying it's going to be Kyren Williams. That's something I didn't adjust to. Yeah. And then from week one, like straight out of the gate, Kyren got more work than Akers in that game where I think they won away at the Seahawks week one. But people didn't really react at that stage. You still thought, oh, it'll be a split backfield, whatever. And people probably still had a bit of a window to get into him at that stage, and then he's just skyrocketed in his ADP and his pricing. And if we look at the second half of the season, fantasy season, sort of weeks 9 to 17, he was running back 1 in fantasy points per game above Christian McCaffrey. So actually, he was more of a league winner than McCaffrey. If you want to paint that picture, which I'm not going to, but I think what he did far beyond expectations. I'm with you as well in terms of where he's ranked. Seen some of them as high as top 5. Whilst, the volume's been great, the output's been fantastic. I think things like Tyler Higbee getting a bad injury, although that's a shame for him, it's going to keep him involved in the offense. McVay's traditionally been a one-back guy in the games as such. It's just whether he does get itchy feet and try and get someone else in there, which I don't think it's the same situation as the past, where he's always just got the next guy in and shown no loyalty because no one's produced like Williams has. But it's something to keep in the back of your mind. If you take him running back 5 over established players or players with better profiles, then it's a big risk. I think anything after that top tier running backs or the top couple of tiers, you start getting into a range where you can find a guy like Mostert, you can find a guy like an Alvin Kamara later, which can have the same outcome over a 1-2 year period. So just be careful on Kyron Williams, I would say. If the value's there, take it by all means, because he's going to be getting a ton of volume again. But I'll be playing it a little bit cooler on Kyron. And it is what it is.
Yeah, you're both smart gentlemen, really, because I have him RB8 as well. In that tier with Travis Etienne, where both completely separate. I mean, opposite, where Etienne is locked in, former first-round pick, there for another couple of years. Kyron, there's definitely more risk involved when you think what happened to Cam Akers. Cam Akers had that really good stretch. I thought he was going to be locked in the start of the season. What didn't happen was replaced. I just think Kyron Williams took it to another level, and he's got to that point where there will be absolute outrage if they phase him out of the offense and they were to move on from him. So I can't see it happening. But yeah, I would not have him in that top tier. He's just below for me with ETN, who I think could start fading away. But the ceiling's there for Kyron, but there's such a low floor. So absolutely agree. But he's the perfect player for this award. If you picked him up early in the season, I know in some of my leagues, more redraft focus, I dumped a lot of fab on this guy when I knew he was going to get the workload, and it certainly paid off in a couple of leagues. That's the sort of typical sort of guy that I want to dump a lot of my fab on. So really like him, but I'm definitely going to be playing it on the cautious side in terms of dynasty startups. He's going to be taking around the time where I'm still taking sort of wide receivers, so probably won't end up with too much for him in my startups come next season. But absolutely perfect player for this award. And we'll move on to, this is a guy I certainly missed on this year. Bust of the year, the player who ruined dynasty rosters with poor performance this year. And this guy just absolutely fell off a cliff. Over to you, Matt.
Yeah, I think this again was quite an easy choice for me to pick my bust of the year. It's Austin Eckler, running back for the LA Chargers. I think if you were a contending team, you were probably trying to get this guy at the start of the year because we know how great he can be. You probably paid up to get him, or you drafted him in your startups and you were looking to be a contender straight away, because we know, obviously, we pay a lot of PPR leagues. The upside that he has with his pass catching, it was always going to have that super safe floor and then give you those boom weeks. So felt like a perfect running back target. And week 1, he actually looked amazing to start the year. Finished as the running back 2 that week, 26 fantasy points, but then obviously picked up the injury. Didn't return until after the bye week, which was week 5. So came back week 6. And he just looked completely different. Looks nothing like the Austin Eckler that we knew from last year. Ended up finishing the year as the RB26. I think he was RB27 in fantasy points per game from week 6 until week 17. But the trouble was, you just couldn't drop him, because we know that the potential ceiling that he had in terms of how he's used his receiving work and what we saw from him in 2022. You just felt like you couldn't drop him. How can I have Austin Eckler, pay all that to get him, or draft him so early and then bench him knowing what he can do? And then he ended up he had 6 weeks where he had single-digit fantasy points in PPR leagues. Look back to 2022, we had 1 game where he had a single figure week, and that was week 18 as well. So it wasn't even in the fantasy season. So every week last year, he was putting up double-digit numbers. This year, he had 6 where he couldn't even get into double digits. So got to be a bust for me, as I say, because you paid such a premium to get him. If you were a contender, you felt like he was going to be that lock at running back, and just didn't show anything like what we expected out of him.
Yeah, I think I was with you there on Eckler. Like, I'll hold my hand up and embarrass myself here. I made a trade for Eckler in week 17. Traded Josh Jacobs to get Eckler in the seconds. I was in a final to try and win the ship. I thought, Eckler's got a green matchup. Let's rock and roll. I think he got about 1 point or something off 3 points, something absolutely disgusting. Thinking I've tried to push my chips in and it's backfired. Luckily, I did win that game, but it wasn't through skill. It was through the other players doing the business. It was a really strange season. Just the schedule towards the end of the year was the sea of green on sleeper, and he just never put it together. The injury had to play a factor, but you've also got to look. He's 28 years old. He's what he was a running back 2, running back 1 the previous 2 seasons, but taking a ton of touches. 200 carries in both those seasons, but for a guy of his age, to do all that on the back of 89 receptions on a couple of seasons as well. It's took its toll. I'd be shocked if he gets that explosiveness back. I think looking a little bit deeper into the metrics side, rush-wise, wasn't great, wasn't helped by the O-line either. Pass game-wise, he's still pretty all right from that side, looking at like yards per route run and stuff like that. So there is a little bit of hope for me as a sort of a 1B in a pass game role potential. But you think about his situation where he was playing in a dome, playing in Justin Herbert-led offense. Mike Williams is injured. Keenan Allen missed time. So it's set up for him to smash, and he just didn't do it. He's a free agent. What if he ends up on a team that plays outdoors in the cold and he's getting half of a backfield? It's going to be a massive struggle for him. So I'm very much out on him at this point in Dynasty. But if he gets a good situation, I don't know, best case scenario, somewhere like Dallas, that he ends up being replacing Pollard and they want to go a Rico down or something. That would be a best case, but I can see plenty of worst cases. So agree, bust of the year, not good enough. Yeah.
Yeah, and you took the words right out of my mouth, Kev, because I was going to say just the most disappointing thing about Eckler was not the fact that I took him in plenty of redrafts this year, got him in Dynasty in quite a bit where I'm a contender, even traded for him halfway through the season in my home league, which really hurts. Just the fact that the Chargers were just decimated at wide receiver. There was just nobody. They're even having to put a guy called Quentin Johnson out there to try and catch balls. And they were that desperate. And he still couldn't. I thought he was set up to succeed. Even if he can't run, he's still going to catch 10 balls a game. And in PPR, that's so crucial to have. But it didn't happen. I mean, even with Herbert going down, I thought, well, they're going to bring the quarterback in that's going to dump the ball off to him. Was it Easton Stick or whoever it was? Again, it didn't happen. And yeah, he turned out absolutely terrible. So yeah, what do we do with him moving on? I think I'm in the same boat as Kev. I'm out on him at the minute. Willing to see where he gets a landing spot if it's not back in LA, which I don't think it will be. So a really interesting guy. I think we're going to be talking about him this offseason, about where he lands, and there's going to be a bit of hype. So whether there's going to be a sell window, whether there's going to be a buy window if he lands at a terrible situation, who knows? But yeah, bust of the year, 100% massive miss for me.
I'll just say as well, because it ties in nice for the next guy. If you've seen what's happened with Eckler, a guy that's been top 2 last 2 seasons, reaching 28 years old, does it sound like anybody that's in the top 4 in Dynasty running backs? So word of warning, if everybody's got McCaffrey out there, we didn't see coming with Eckler, it could do. It's probably not going to, because he's in a better situation, but just McCaffrey, have a think.
I bet Kev planting that in people's minds. We'll move on to the final award for tonight, the Dynasty MVP, and absolutely loved the person who's going to receive this award. Again, it was a bit of a miss for me because I did say halfway through the season before he had his amazing run that I've dropped him down to my wide receiver 4 behind Amon-Ra St. Brown, and he obviously heard it, was pissed off. And now for some people, he's the wide receiver 1. So, Matt, over to you for the award winner.
Yeah, so with this one, I could have gone for Christian McCaffrey. I think a lot of people maybe would have gone for Christian McCaffrey. We know what a great year he had. But for me, the Dynasty MVP, it had to be CeeDee Lamb, which kind of pains me a little bit because I wasn't actually super into CeeDee Lamb when he came in the early part of his career. But slowly came round and he's absolutely smashed it this year. Finished as the wide receiver 1. And I've got a few stats here just to reassure people why I think he should be the Dynasty Dynasty MVP over Christian McCaffrey. So as you mentioned, Ali, the start of the year wasn't actually that incredible. So week 1 to week 6, it was actually wide receiver 13, 14.9 fantasy points per game. He only had 1 game where he had double-digit targets in that stretch. Now, after that bye week, the Cowboys were sitting 4-2, so maybe they thought, I think we need to start getting the ball into his playmakers, and he's the best receiving option we've got on this team. He's the best player we've got in terms of pass catchers on offense. We've got to get the ball in his hands. So then after the bye week, from week 8 until week 17, we all know finishes the wide receiver one over that stretch. 27.8 fantasy points per game from week 8 to week 17. He only had one game where he didn't have double-digit targets in that period. So he's gone from having one at the start of the year to every game apart from one. And then you just compare it to who was the wide receiver 2 in fantasy points per game through that stretch. Tyreek Hill, 21.1 fantasy points. So that's 6.7 fantasy points more than the wide receiver 2 in points per game. And then we mentioned Christian McCaffrey. What he had in that strength, what he had throughout the entire season, I mentioned it earlier, 24.4 fantasy points. So he's even outdoing Christian McCaffrey in terms of what he's given you through that second half of the season after the bye week. On top of that, and the absolute cherry on the top of the cake, week 17, championship week, boom, take that 40 bomb. Oh, just take me to the promised land, CD Lamb. I couldn't pick anybody else. Everything just lined up perfect for him to be the MVP. He's got to be in the top 3 wide receivers in that top tier with Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase. As you mentioned, Ali, a lot of people got in wide receiver 1. I'm still wide receiver 2, I think. Justin Jefferson, when he's healthy and on the field, we've seen he can do it as well, the same as what CD Lamb's done. So I think between them two, it's close. You could maybe say them two are at the top tier, and you could maybe drop Jamar Chase out of that top tier. But yeah, for me, Dynasty MVP, I think for the reasons I've listed, you've got to take him over Christian McCaffrey. And long term, I mean, we all want those wide receivers, don't we, long term in terms of Dynasty. So easily my Dynasty MVP.
Yeah, I think obviously Cowboys player winning Dynasty MVP is not super ideal. But I do agree with it. Like, people will just remember week 17, championship week. If he's on your roster, pretty much certain that you won that game. So people will remember that. People do remember week 17s every year for the right or the wrong reasons. But he deserved it. Like you mentioned, no one's come close to him in that period. He's outscoring a running back, an absolute amazing running back over that time frame. So it couldn't really be anyone else. I was ready to come for you if you didn't pick Lamb, actually, which is funny because I'd be caping up for a Cowboys player. But yeah, he deserves to be in that top tier, whether it's a tier of 2 or 3. I think a bit's to be debated. Just see what happens with T. Higgins, etc. And if he goes, then I think that's probably more beneficial for Chase. But honestly, like if people take him over Jefferson in certain leagues, in startups, I'm kind of not too fussed with that. If you want to do that, I think he's finally shown that he can be the main man and command a massive target share. Because when he's been doing it previous seasons, he's not stood out as like the main man. He's been really good with Cooper, or he's been really good in part of an offense. This year he stepped up. It doesn't matter that he does it from the slot, does it? Like, he's on the field, he's getting you fantasy points. Well played, CD. Thanks for winning some ships.
Yeah, 100%. And the only 2 places I've got him actually are both places where I've got Dak Prescott with that stack. And that was the stack that was the cheat sheet really for this year. I mean, I think the 2 or 3 years past, it's been Mahomes and Kelsey. If you had that stack, you're well on your way to the championship. But Dak and CD is the way forward right now. The offense is staying together. So it looks like that's going to continue going forward. So if anybody has him wide receiver 1, I've got no argument with that. He is my wide receiver 2 in the same tier with Justin Jefferson. Jamar Chase is just about there. As Kev mentioned, we're yet to see what happens with T. Higgins this offseason. But the most impressive thing for me with CeeDee Lamb is just the fact that the Cowboys made it absolutely clear that they were just going to go to CD the whole of the time. And the fact that he could still produce when he had double teams, the defense knew exactly what they were going to do. And the fact that CD still rolled off multiple 100-yard games in a row, catching the touchdowns came this year, was just incredible. He's really taken a step forward, and he has to be in consideration with Jefferson in real life and in terms of fantasy for just being the best wide receiver now in the NFL. So had to be the Dynasty MVP. I'm glad you picked him over McCaffrey. Yeah, I really need to get some more CD, but it's not going to happen anymore, I'm afraid. It was a guy that halfway through the season, when you reeled off the stats there, he wasn't looking amazing the first 6 games of the season, and then obviously the bye came and they changed tactics, and I was looking a bit, smug but then he's completely made me look like an idiot. So, yeah, well done, CD. Definitely deserving of this award. And we'll move on to the fantasy wildcard segment. So this is an important one because as the winner last year, there's some pressure on you to get this one right, Matt. So we're going to get our guests to pick their fantasy wildcard. So the player that's going to improve their dynasty value the most in 2024. So we're calling it a 2024 breakout performance. So Matt, who are you going with?
I mean, you've built me up for failure there, Ali. I mean, if I'm the champion now, there's only one way you can go from being number one. So I'm not holding out much hope. And it's funny because when obviously I used to be a host with you guys, I used to always think, it must be so easy for people they got the choice of any player they want. This must be so easy. And now I'm sat here and I've got anyone I want to pick from. It's so early in the off season. So much can change. I'm starting to think we had it quite easy as hosts doing it right at the end. And like I said, when picking Puka right at the end kind of set me up to win because we knew the situation, whereas I don't have a clue what's happening in a minute. So it's going to be tough to repeat what I did this year. And I don't think I've quite got the room to grow like I did with the Puka Nacua, but the player I've gone for is Bryce Young, the quarterback for the Carolina Panthers. Now, I'll start by saying his rookie season was a disaster. In fact, whatever the worst words you can come up with in terms of bad, that is what Bryce Young was. 11 touchdowns, 10 interceptions in 16 games. That's ridiculous. I mean, that is shockingly bad that it's only got 11 touchdowns in 16 games. But on the flip side, I will say I am still going to hold out hope for Bryce Young. It's given us a little bit of a window if you do still believe in Bryce Young because he has dropped down to the QB 17. But I'm still going on the fact that I believe in what I saw as a prospect when he was at Alabama and the fact he's a Heisman winner in 2021, a finalist in 2022. So he showed it in college. And as I mentioned at the top of the show, I think when we judged the three quarterbacks coming in last year, Bryce Young was probably the one that was said was a safe option. Maybe didn't quite have the ceiling as somebody like Anthony Richardson. He was the ceiling play. CJ Stroud was kind of that guy in the middle, had a little bit of risk to him, but also had a high ceiling. And then Bryce Young was that safer option. Obviously didn't play out that way to start as a rookie, but it did have a lot of issues as well. Obviously, the head coaching change, Frank Wright left halfway through the season when he got sacked. The O-line, 27th in pass blocking, according to PFF, so the O-line was terrible. The weapons, Kev's greatest hits, all surrounding Bryce Young. What chance did the guy have? Adam Thielen, to be fair to you, Kev, looked pretty good to start the year, but that slowly faded away. DJ Chark obviously didn't do too much. Terrace Marshall, the less said about him, the better. So I do think with those problems that he faced this past season as a rookie, I do think he has got room to grow. If they bring in a new head coach, somebody that can really back him, get some weapons around him, make some adjustments to that O-line, I think we can see that safe prospect that we labelled him. I don't think he's ever going to get up to the heights of being the quarterback 1 or quarterback 2 in Dynasty, but I do think we can maybe get up to top 12, top 10. And I think that's enough with this whole section, somebody that's going to improve the value. I think he can do that and move up a few spots in terms of where he is currently in his quarterback ranking. So good luck, Bryce Young. You've got a lot to live up to do me as well as what Puka Nacua did. But maybe this time next year I can come in rocking a Bryce Young top and gloating about I've nailed it 2 years on the trot. But we'll see what happens. But yeah, Bryce Young is my selection.
I love how you think we're inviting you back.
I'm coming back. If I go back to back, Kev, I'm coming back. I want my own show just on my own gloating.
I mean, I think, first of all, let's try and make this a viral video again next year. That is a terrible pick, Matt. No, I think seriously, like you mentioned at the start, it's really tough to pick a guy this early in the off-season before free agency, before the draft. The person that actually finished last in the fantasy wildcard picked first last year, so there is a bit of theory to that. But then again, I picked pretty late and I was second bottom, so that is just how it falls sometimes. I still believe in you, Justin Fields, but yeah, like Bryce Young, such a bad season as a rookie. Like whatever angle you look at, if you watch film, if you look at QB 42 in fantasy points per game, if you look at less than 3,000 yards passing, it was a terrible season. Like if you're just purely looking at fantasy points per game, in the last 5 years, there's only Dwayne Haskins that's been worse as a first round QB in terms of fantasy points per game. So rest in peace to him. But like the list, there's probably about 12, 13 QBs that have gone round one that have played games. Like Jordan Love was taken round one that they didn't play games before this season. Their rookie seasons, it's one of the worst you've seen. Some players can bounce back. So Trevor Lawrence bounced back after, obviously, the Urban Meyer season. You've got Justin Fields who bounced back in his second season. But I think both those guys still haven't got anywhere near where we thought they could in terms of dynasty and solidifying that. So there's a lot of question marks. I think it's a great type of pick for this section because I'll be honest, I'm out because of what he's done in year one. But that's going to open up an opportunity that there's so much growth that if he has the perfect season, he could have a Jordan Love season. Couldn't he? Jordan Love was going around this range. If he has an amazing season, which it's hard to tell because we don't know who the coach is going to be. Maybe it'll be your OC, Ali. I'll let you leave that to you. But but yeah, I can't stop laughing about that. But yeah, I think there's a lot of room for growth. Will it happen? I don't think so, but who am I to write you off, Matt? You're the champ. You made me look daft last year. Over to you, Ali.
Yes, I'll just round up by saying you did mention the guy there, but a certain Trevor Lawrence finished as quarterback 23 in his rookie season. Bryce Young finished as quarterback 23. Who knows? It might be a bounce back with an offensive-minded coach coming in. I know they're going to have plenty of cap room to if they want to go after a T. Higgins. They're not going to get Mike Evans, but if they get someone of that ilk that can just really help Bryce Young out, I think they need help with the running game. I think it's exciting times in Carolina. Obviously, they are hating the pick at the minute. They really should have gone for CJ Stroud. They're going to be just judge them to what they do over their career, but I'm still in on Bryce Young. I still think just because of the people who are pushing him down that have completely written him off already in year one, I think it's only going to get better. It's only going to get better in year two. If he doesn't show drastic improvement in year two, then I will be out. But I just think he's certainly got the talent, the capital, everything is there. If they're not going to get Dave Canales, that's not going to happen. I'm not. It's too early for him. He needs to be with Baker Mayfield. But if they get someone that can be a bit of a quarterback whisperer, they can just help him out. I can certainly see him being in the sort of fringe quarterback one range come the end of the season. It's definitely in the realms of possibility. He would have been in consideration for someone that I would have picked if I had this selection this early. So yeah, like it, Matt.
Thank you.
And with
you'll
that,
not be getting clicked up now, Ali. You've just saved yourself there.
With that, I can't believe I was so positive about a Carolina Panther player, but there we are. We've wrapped up tonight's show, so we've discussed the winners of the 2023 Dynasty Awards. But before you go, Matt, please, can you remind the audience where they can find you, and is there anything you would like to plug?
Yeah, I'll just start by saying thanks for having me on, lads. Again, we're in this weird part now because I'm not used to being on this side of the ending of the show. But thanks for having me on. Obviously, it's just like being old times on it, getting the band back together. So thank you for having me on. If you do want to follow me on Twitter, on X, it's at my FFDynasty. As Kev mentioned, I do like the weather threads during the season, but I've not really been doing a great deal of content this year. Just been doing that during the off season. I will start to do a little bit more in terms of the rookies, getting my next Puka Nacua out there because I'm going to need somebody to gloat about. So I'll be firing some shots out on X to make sure I've got something to gloat about if they do it. But thanks again for having me on, lads. It's been an absolute pleasure, an absolute blast, and everything I could have hoped for. And one last time, Kev. Wide receiver 60. What was that? Wide receiver 60. Give over. Puka Nacua, baby.
He's terrible. What is it, Kevin? He's terrible.
Terrible.
Is there any final thoughts from you, Kev, on tonight's show? I'm sure there is a few thoughts you'd like to bring out.
I mean, I'll be selfish and talk about myself first. No, I just think last two shows it's been a bit of heat on it. Philly Eagles going out and then getting Puka Nacua show, but it's not about me. It's about I guess Matt, and it's just been like old times. The best three. Hall of Famer in Fantasy Wildcard colours as such. So yeah, just really enjoyed tonight. I think you've been a fantastic guest. Your content, your knowledge, your picks have been spot on. I couldn't really hammer you for any picks, which I was really hoping I could because I knew that you were coming for me. A little bit at the end, I got on Bryce Young, but I can't be going too much in because I don't want to get cut up as a video game as well. So just really enjoyed tonight. It's gone super quick, but I've had a lot of fun. I think there's lots to take away for the audience as well. So really appreciate you giving us your time. I'll be sure to follow you, Rookie Freds, this off season and not just go against what you say to be the awkward one. Just anybody that's not following you or that's not following your Rookie Freds, please do follow because you might win big like Puka Nacua.
Yeah, I was just going to say your Rookie Freds are the best out there. Absolutely love the work that you put into them, the presentation, everything. There's so much information you can get and learn about, especially for the deeper guys that a lot of people don't really look too much into. They're really, really useful. And just want to say thanks for coming on. It's been like the old times again. We absolutely miss you, and it's just great to see what you're doing. You're such a great guy, and just I've really enjoyed tonight's show. I really have, from just sitting back watching Kev squirm on his seat, and it's been an absolute highlight. So keep that fork out, Kev. And with that, it's been quite a long show, so thank you for tuning in. Be sure to follow us and subscribe on X and YouTube at Fantasy Wildcard and at Wildcard Dynasty, and join us for our show each Wednesday throughout the off season. So thank you once again. Have a good one, and we'll see you again soon.
When you have the wild card, you have the power to change the game.